Those are my losers of the week. Joining me now is the Beau Show host, Beau Davidson. All right, Beau, I want to talk a little bit about my losers. Obviously, we have to start with what I believe, at least right now, is the most egregious, and that's those that are addressing the fires in LA County, of course, in Southern California. A lot of blame to go around there. I don't know who's the most incompetent or the most embarrassing. I don't know if it's Joe Biden. I don't know if it's Governor Gavin Newsom. I don't know if it's Mayor Karen Dumbass, but there's a lot to discuss there. I'm sure you've been watching the coverage. What's your initial take on how they are covering this devastation?
Well, all of them are losers, Tommy. I mean, I used to live in Santa Monica and it's devastating. It's tragic. But, Trump signed that memo in 2020 that would redirect water from Northern California to Southern California. And Newsom and the Dems blocked it because they were trying to protect some smelt, the Delta smelt, which is basically a sardine. The solution to protect wildlife cannot outweigh protecting people. And I'll say this too about politicizing things. It's not politicizing an issue if you're telling the truth about it. It doesn't matter if you have an R or D by your name. It's bad governance. I used to live out in LA. The fires, the Santa Ana winds, there's nothing new about them. They have had decades to address this issue. And contrary to what Democrats think, they think that you can change the climate. You can't. But what you can change is your readiness for it, your preparedness for it, and your response to it. That's the key. You can change all those things, but you can't change the climate as Democrats think. Sarah Foster, I think maybe said it best. I don't know if you saw her post, but lambasted Newsom. She lambasted Bass. Hundred or millions of dollars, Tommy, as you said, cut to the LA Fire Department. That's bad leadership. That's bad governance. So it's not politicization to talk about how bad that is. And I think there's a GOP councilman out there that said that they've been so focused on Trump-proofing California when they should be trying to fireproof it. And I completely agree with that. I think this is a disgrace. I think Biden, Newsom, and Bass are all to blame, but especially Newsom and Bass should resign over this because they've had decades to deal with this, and it's a series of bad leadership.
Well, I want to get into this a little bit later as well, but what frustrates me the most is that they are so quick to blame climate change. And the reason that they blame climate change is because that's really easy. If you blame some invisible thing, climate change, it's not tangible. So you can just say, this was climate change. So we all need to, give up our mansions and give up our private planes. Oh, wait, no, they're not going to give that up. They want hardworking Americans to give up their jobs in oil and gas and fossil fuels. They want everyday Americans to give up their pickup trucks and those things. They're never going to give up their $9 million mansions. I mean, of course not. But it's really easy to blame climate change because you don't actually have to take accountability. And then you can have more BS Green New Deal type policies that really led to this in the first place. Them not clearing the brush, them not, as you mentioned, fireproofing California, making sure that they have the resources needed, that not only the personnel needed, but the water itself. When you go to a fire hydrant and you got no water, that's pretty damn embarrassing for the fifth largest economy in the frickin' world. But climate change is so much easier to blame. And, I look at California and I look at the Californians and I can't help but think none of them will probably admit it out loud anyway. But I can't imagine how much they wish that they had a Governor Ron DeSantis instead of a Governor Gavin Newsom. Governor Ron DeSantis has dealt with natural disaster after emergency after emergency. He handles it excellently. He is prepared and his people understand that. What do you think the people in California, even though they're Democrat by and large, what do you think they think of Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom right now?
Well, as I just said with Sarah Foster, you're seeing some Democrats wake up to this. They realize that they are taxed to hell and back. And what do they have to show for it, Tommy? Nothing. They've got fires ravaging their entire state. LA, the city of angels, is now the city of desolation. And I think what you're going to see, and Sarah Foster's a great example of it. She said, this is my party that you're ruining. This is why you have Democrats leaving their party, people like Tulsi Gabbard and others leaving the party because they see what failed governance and failed leadership is. And you're 100% right. You look at how Ron DeSantis handles natural disasters versus how Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom dealt with it. They've had decades to deal with this, as I said. And they've refused to deal with the problem because they're so focused on protecting some endangered sardine that now the decision to protect wildlife has devastated people's homes. And now when your multi-million-dollar mansion is devastated, you're going to think twice about who you vote for. At least I hope that's the case. There has to be an awakening.
Isn't it sad, though, that it takes that? I
Yeah.
mean, this is just my personal frustration. And when you mention saving the wildlife, they're saving a sardine, and are they even really saving it? I'm not sure. But what about the wildlife right now that's being burned alive? What about the pets and the other animals that are being absolutely devastated by these fires? I think about them maybe more than the sardines. I'm not that I don't love the little Delta smelt. I'm sure they're a great, lovely fish. But at the end of the day, I'm looking at this devastation. But another thing that really frustrates me, and I'm wondering if it frustrates you as well, anybody who loses a home, whether it be a shack or a mansion, that's a devastating loss. Nobody wants to lose their home, no matter how much money they have, no matter their ability to rebuild. Like, it's devastating, right? But I'm looking on Instagram and I'm looking at like the reports from People and E and TMZ, and it's like, oh, these people, Leighton Meester and David Brody, lost their home, or all these people. I'm like, listen, I feel badly for you, but they can probably rebuild. I'm thinking about the people that already were struggling to live in California in the first frickin' place, and I'm wondering how those people are ever going to make it out alive. What are they even able to do, especially those that don't have the fire insurance? That's also a big problem. A lot of people in the Palisades very wealthy, but this is not just affecting the very wealthy. And I'm wondering what those people are going to do in the aftermath of this.
I don't know. I mean, it certainly hits them far worse than it hurts the multimillionaires, does it not? I mean, it's easy for us to talk about all the actors and actresses that lost their home. I don't want to minimize the loss, as you said, but the people that are struggling, who've been struggling in the most tax-heavy state, basically in the union, right there in California, they're the ones that are going to get hit the worst. And maybe they don't have the option to move. I don't know. After this, if they get any insurance money for it, I hope they get the hell out of California, because California was once a great place. But, there are governors, Republican governors, who did have solutions to things like this in the past, and they just ignored them, and they replaced them with Democratic governors and Democratic mayors. And what do you have to show for yourself? And so you can protect your endangered species at what cost? As you said, how many animals have lost their lives now? How many people have lost their homes, their livelihoods, their prized possessions? And it's the people at the bottom of the ladder that obviously get adversely proportionately affected by this. I don't know what they're going to do, but I just hope that they'll go somewhere else, because I don't see their governance changing anytime soon, unfortunately.
No, and this will not, unfortunately, be a wake up call for a lot of folks, because a lot of folks will say, you know what, it is climate change. And they will be satisfied with that answer, and they won't expect anything else. And what a disaster. And again, there's a lot of celebrities out there that have lost their homes and all of these things. Feel badly for their loss, but dang, I'm thinking about these images that I saw of people in old folks' homes being carted out in their wheelchairs and on stretchers, trying to escape these fires. I think about the most vulnerable among them that are really going to have a hard time. Hopefully they get out, but those that are just going to be impacted by this, those that have breathing conditions, the breathing conditions of breathing in the fire, probably far worse than the breathing conditions that they blame on climate change. So, it's just very frustrating. I want to move on to some other news of the week, though. I know that you and I both enjoy and love pop culture. We had the Golden Globes last weekend. I don't know if you watched. I did not. I couldn't care less. People think Nikki Glaser is great. I don't think she's that great. Don't think she's that funny. Couldn't care less. But I'm wondering, in the midst of all the Golden Globes drama and all of this, there's been a story brewing. Of course, this is top of mind for those in Hollywood, and that's Blake
Yeah.
Lively versus Justin Baldoni and the drama there that went on set and the lawsuits. I don't personally care that much, but I'm wondering what you think from a pop culture perspective about this one.
Well, the movie is It Ends With Us, and the sequel's supposed to be It Starts With Us. And I think it starts with us when it comes to litigation. This is just now brewing. I did watch the movie, didn't think it was all that great, but the problem that I have with this, Tommy, 30,000 foot view here, is that it's a war of mega PR firms. It's exactly the problem that I have, because the mega PR firm serves the client, not the truth. That's the story that's coming out of this. You think about like Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. Amber Heard leaked that story, I think it was to The Atlantic, and then now Johnny Depp's on the defensive. I do have to give Blake Lively some credit for having an all hands on deck meeting. I think her husband was involved, Justin Baldoni, and the team was involved, addressing these issues of sexual harassment. This is before filming began. So I give her credit for doing this. It's not like it came out of the blue, but I just don't like that it's a mega PR firm war. That's the major thing that I have to come out of this, because I want the truth, but I don't want some mega PR firm's version of it, is the thing, because you don't know who's the victim. You don't know who the oppressor is. And like you said, it's not that we should care about it. It's really that we should care about the fact that mega PR firms can easily sway the public mind. And then you don't really know the truth because they keep bickering at each other. So I don't know who's in the right here. I do think Blake is right to have that all hands on deck meeting. So I don't don't know who's in the right here. But again, the problem is that the information that's being disseminated to us is all being controlled and shaped by mega PR firms. I don't want their version of it.
I think they're all just insufferable. I think Blake Lively, some people like her. I think that she's always come across very rude and just cavalier. And they say that, that was part of the whole deal, is like they're trying to make her look bad in her PR. But, you can only make someone look bad. They have to contribute that a little bit themselves as well. I'm not a big fan of her. I'm not a fan of him. I don't care about the movie. I really don't care about any of this drama. But obviously, it's going to be a battle. I think there's also a lawsuit against the New York Times. So this is also a journalistic thing as well. I mean, boy, those two are fighting it out. And it's like, what have you been saying about conservatives and Donald Trump and all the slander and libel that's been going on for the last 10 years? Like, please. But, moving on from that and the Golden Globes and the award season and all that, I just think people are so tired of Hollywood in general. And I think they're going to continue to be woke, and I think they're going to continue to make crap movies. It's really hard to find a good movie. I don't know if you've seen any lately, but I feel like all the movies that they're putting out lately have been pretty insufferable as well. It's hard to find something to watch in the theater. Do you have any recommendations? It seems bleak, in my opinion.
I don't. Like I said, I watched That Ends With Us because my fiance wanted to watch it. I was not interested in it. I will say that Blake looked, as an actress at least, more and more uncomfortable with Justin as time went on. And I don't know if that was just the reality of things, or she was acting, or if it was real. Maybe it was too real. See, as actors, you want to be in the moment and you want to do what feels authentic and real so it comes across to the screen. But in this case, it might have been too real. You know what I mean? And I think that's part of the problem, is maybe a line was crossed. Again, it's not a story that really needs to be truly talked about. But sadly, Tomi, I do not have any recommendations for you. I tend to watch series. I was watching Squid Game recently. I don't think it was good as the first season at all. A lot of cerebral, psychological things going on in there. But I can't say it was as good as the first.
Yeah, movies have just not been great. I watched Gladiator 2. That was pretty decent. But everything else, I mean, I'm not going to go see Wicked. They ruined that too. I wouldn't watch a musical anyway. I mean, I got to be honest, even if it wasn't woke and they weren't talking about queer land of this, I still wouldn't have watched it. Don't like people singing at the movie theater. It's not my thing. Another thing that's not my thing. I'm sure you've seen it all over X, all over social media. OnlyFans has gone to a different level. It's really sick. It's disgusting. People are making money essentially being online predators and basically online prostitutes, and it's gross. And there's a video of one of these OnlyFans predators. I don't even know what her name is because I don't care. She's a predator. We'll just call her Predator 1. But she's trying to proposition a Five Guys worker, trying to get like some fodder for her filth. And he expertly shuts her down in a way that gives me faith in humanity and faith in young people. I want to take a look at this in case my audience hasn't seen it.
I just wondered, I can't see it on the menu, but where do I get the Five Guys from? The Five Guys. I didn't know if it was like a special room or you can take me out back.
No, I don't think that's happening.
What about after your shift? I mean, I'd want to give you, a good rating.
I'm a Christian man and I'm saving myself to marriage.
I'm asking for what's on the menu, that's all.
Genuinely, I feel like I'm doing it right now. I can hand you a menu if you want.
Are you on it?
No, I'm not.
Oh, that's a shame.
So good for him for standing up for himself. And, we don't know where that video went from there, but I would hope that there would have been a manager or somebody at the fast food restaurant that would have kicked that predator out. Because can you imagine if that was the other way around, if it was a man propositioning a female fast food cashier and saying things like that? I mean, that would have been grounds for a lot. Five Guys probably would have put out a statement, but because it's a young man, they just really don't care about him and how uncomfortable he was. But what do you think of that clip, and what do you think it says about society and what we care about?
Well, it's terrible. I mean, you got an OnlyFans person trying to proposition a young man who's just trying to make a living, which is sad. I think it's a great and honest response. It's to be commended, Tomi. It's exemplary. Where I come from in Memphis, I hate to say this, but we have videos of, people attacking fast food, drag queens attacking fast food workers, and then a French fry grease war ensues. And I'm not kidding about this. You can actually look it up. It's sad. But I think about companies like Chick-fil-A, for instance, and how they have good, authentic, Christian, men and women of character working there. They always say, "My pleasure." I'm sure you noticed that. It's a company that closes its doors on Sunday. I think that's to be commended. And maybe we don't give fast food workers enough credit for having character like this young man did. But for him to act that way in that moment, not knowing he's being filmed, it just shows where his character really was. And like you said, maybe Five Guys buried this. I think think the man should be commended. I think he should be given a raise, because all too often society is prizing the girl, the OnlyFans, for trying to get this viral moment or whatever she was trying to do, and not giving credit to the young man who in that moment not only resisted it, but showed his resilience, his courage, his character, and his Christian faith. How often do you see that? It's almost non-existent.
Yeah, you don't see it very often at all. And just, I get frustrated because I don't want to see the filth that these OnlyFans people, I don't want to see their filth. Unfortunately, though, if you go on social media, it almost hits you in the face, even on X. And I get it, free speech, right? That's fine. But, it pops up in your feed whether you want to see it or not. And that girl's friend who wants to sleep with 1,000 guys, it's just filth. It's gross. And my concern about it, too, is that, these young women are making a lot of money off of this filth. It's prostitution, in my opinion. I don't think you should make money for prostitution, whether it be online or not. But I worry that young people are looking at this, Gen Z looking at this and saying, like, I want to make my living on OnlyFans because you can make $1 million in a year or more. And that's what I aspire to be. And I think that it's going to have a really disgusting impact on the younger generation. And I'm wondering if you're concerned about the same thing.
I am. I think it incentivizes it. I think it incentivizes filth. It incentivizes prostitution because, as you said, there's a market for it. There's an incentive, the monetary incentive to say, I don't need any talent. I don't need to be able to sing, act, play baseball, you name. I don't need a talent because this is so easy. Why go to college? Why go to high school? Why pursue any higher education if I can just walk into a Five Guys and proposition someone and make millions just like that? I think it's a terrible stain in our society that this is happening. Look, I get it. We're both free market people. We're both free speech people. But at the same time, there's got to be some sort of stigma and some sort of pushback to say this is not the way to do it. But unfortunately, culture and society have promoted this. Hollywood's responsible for it too. I just think it's all too easy for these people to do this and to pursue income and pursue a career like this. And that's part of the problem, when the gentleman that's working for Five Guys should be the one commended and ascending in society, and the OnlyFans model should be down at the bottom. But it's lopsided. It's completely the opposite of that. So I do have serious concern about that, as you do.
Yeah, it's the supply and demand too, which is really unfortunate. And a lot of people now, the supply is endless and the demand is endless for this disgusting behavior. And I would just hope that we could get back to a point too where we recognize that people can be sexy and attractive and all of that's fine. I want the hot Victoria's Secret models and the fashion show to look like it should, and we don't need to DEI the damn thing. But I also think that we should have just maybe even just some basic decency with what we're putting out and what we revere, and maybe not just like someone obviously putting out their body to be sold for content and rev share dollars or subscriptions. I mean, it's beyond me. The last thing I want to talk about after a very heavy week with the fires and everything going on in this country, something that I'm really concerned about for our friends in North Korea, and that is that Kim Jong Un is cracking down on hot dogs. I don't know if you've heard about this, Beau, but he's cracking down on the sale of hot dogs in North Korea. Penalty, time in a labor camp. Now, listen, you got LA that you have to beg to be thrown in jail, and you got North Korea where, you go too wild on the hot dogs, you might end up in a labor camp. What do you think that this says about the differences in our cultures? And should we be more like North Korea?
No, we shouldn't. I think it's funny, Tommy, because it looks to me like Kim Jong Un has been eating only hot dogs all of his life. I think it's a simple case of him hoarding all the francs. And, I think secretly, Tommy, he's doing all of the capitalistic Western things that he doesn't want his citizens to do. I think he's back there memeing. I think he's listening to T Swift. I think he's kicking back his fifth glass of Jack Daniels. He's wondering about, should I be Team Baldoni or Team Lively? There's a good chance he's even probably watching Fearless with Tomi Lahren right now. He's probably watching us. And I was thinking about this, like the name for hot dog in Korean is I think it's called budae jjigae, which is very similar to booty judge. I hope Mayor Pete doesn't think that he's being banned over there. But in all seriousness, Trump is about to come into office for the next 4 years. Good and well, he's going to go over to North Korea. He's going to show him the beast again. He's going to have him drinking Diet Cokes, eating McDonald's French fries, and he's going to be all about it. So to me, this is a case of Kim Jong Un simply doing the things that he doesn't want his own citizens to do. He's depriving them of the right to a great hot dog. That's how I see it. And it's a shame.
I know. And you know what? Just along those lines, too, like, we're not going to ban hot dogs anytime soon. RFK Jr. better not even try to ban hot dogs. Also, stay away from our Oreos, right? Like, I'm fine if you want to take the dyes out of things or label the dyes and be like, this dye, you shouldn't eat this dye. It's bad for you. Like, I'm all good with that. I hope that we can, do something in that area. But I'm not going to ban, I mean, don't ban our food. Like, listen, a lot of us grew up eating Oreos and we are just fine, and grew up eating Fruit Loops and all those things. Like, probably not good for us, but there's probably a lot worse things for us. I don't know, like OnlyFans out there in the ether. Beau, I always appreciate your pop culture hot takes, especially on the hot dogs. And I hope to see you soon. Happy New Year. And we'll have you back to chat more pop culture very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tomi. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. All right, folks, that does it for this episode of Tomi Lahren is Fearless. I will see you right back here tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern for my special deep dive episode on these California wildfires and the dereliction of duty that contributed to them. Please do not miss the show tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. Also, please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Tomi Lahren is Fearless so you can watch whenever you want. We are also, of course, on Fox Nation from Nashville. God bless and take care. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want more of my hottest takes, must-see conversations, and of course, my final thoughts, click here and make sure you subscribe here so you never miss a beat. I'll be here every weekday, and I hope you'll join me.